I actually had spaghetti and meatballs right before I'm about to record the voiceover for this video, so that's funny and I guess kind of fitting. I wrote this script a couple days after the November on-track tanks were announced, which was kind of good, kind of bad. Good because I was gonna do this tank review anyway, and I guess that's just kind of decent timing because everybody's gonna be looking at how these tanks perform, so people are gonna be looking for this video like maybe you are right now. The other side is bad because, well, why? Anyway, now that I got that out of the way, let me tell you about this egg. Well, I don't entirely like the design of the tank or the concept of the tank or really anything that has to do with seeing something like this in the game because hold down gameplay is extremely unfun. I still enjoy this tank. I thought it was going to be like the Sheridan of tier 10 lights, where you get it just because you want to get all of them. Like if you have to get all the tier 10 lights, there's inevitably going to be one where you're kind of like, collector, and that's it. I was pleasantly surprised because it's a lot like what the Mk.2 is in conjunction with the Kranvagen. It does the same stuff as the tier 10 tank in the same line does, usually slightly or notably worse, but it's at a tier lower, so it's fine. A lot of these kinds of tanks exist, and most of them have a pretty steady statistical increase over time because they'll just get better and better and better and better. And then the AMX-30B is a thing. If you played the tier 7 and then the tier 8 in this line, then prepare to not be disappointed in this thing at all, because it's a lot of the same stuff. The pen problems of the tier 7 aren't present, which do get fixed at the tier 8, and then the tier 8 is also kind of slow, so it's more mobile than the tier 8. So it really all starts to wrap together at this point before you get to the tier 10. Well, most people might think, why not just get the Minotauro instead? You have to remember the stark difference between tier 9 and tier 10, which is a similar story for why the Tortoise is slightly better and definitely more enjoyable to play than the Badger is. Tier 10 is a land full of turrets, and if you're lucky, some cupolas. There's a lot of shooting each other in the face, and not a lot of much else. Excluding light tanks and artillery, there are 72 publicly released tier 10s as of right now, as I'm recording this. Of those 72 tanks, 30 of them are hull-down brawlers, with a large chunk of the remaining 42 being tanks like the Object 140, the 121, IS-4, tanks that aren't strictly hull down, but are very strong when they are and don't have a rear turret. If we run the same comparison for tier 9, only 23 out of 73 are hull down brawlers. Only 14 of those are in the tech tree versus the 19 at tier 10. Why I mention this is because it's a lot more unique at this tier than the Minotauro is at tier 10. Tanks being unpennable at tier 10 is commonplace, whereas tier 9's not so much. This is why the ISU 152 is a lot more special to people than the Object 268, because 750 Alpha at tier 8 is pretty special. It's exclusive to like 4 or 5 tanks. 750 Alpha damage is overly common at tier 10. There's, I don't even know, there's at least 4 heavies that get that much, plus, I didn't even know how many tank destroyers. It's basically all of them. So it's just not special anymore. As for this thing, because that's why you're here, this is the one of the very, very few tanks that can properly out-bully a Tortoise in a straight-up fight. While it out-DPMs T-95s, T-30s, and every other tank in the tier, the CC-1 has the armor to block Tortoise shells, and has the gold pen to go right through the front. Originally, when these tanks came out, the preview video put a lot of emphasis on you'll never know how many shells it has loaded in the clip right now, because it's 8 seconds between shots, and it's only like 20 seconds or so between full reloads of the clip, so you're never really sure. The long interclip mixed with the short overall reload means this thing is always loaded, which is very, very nice, because that gun needs to take a lot of shots to be effective. Sure, 490 Alpha is great, and 8 seconds between shots is actually quite generous for 490 Alpha damage, but you only do that if you hit and pen, which is far from guaranteed. When it works, it's magical, but that's definitely not all the time, as you've probably come to notice with these Italian tank destroyers if you've played other ones like the Vipera. I do want to make a special note about the heat rounds, which we'll come back to later. They're great at close range, but not so much at long range. You might be thinking that's kind of weird because heat doesn't lose pen over distance. They are very slow. And when I say very slow, I mean very, very slow. The tank does have pretty quick AP rounds, but those heat rounds are significantly slower. And you'll notice immediately, because the first shot you take at long range will land behind the target every time, unless you aim really far ahead. So just be ready for that. As for concealment and view range, who cares? It's a heavy tank. It's a tank destroyer, but really it's a heavy tank. It shouldn't really, it's not gonna matter. Pretty much the best way to sum this up. If you designed two tanks with the sole concept of being terrible at sniping, you'd end up with something like the Object 263, and if you wanted a turret, you'd end up with this thing. It has loads of armor at the front, a bunch of gun depression, strong pen for a heavy tank standards anyway, and a very, very punchy gun for close range combat, especially when it has one of those rare games where it hits every single shot. The armor, excluding the front, is kind of lackluster and can prove difficult to hide at times. Side scraping is absolutely a last resort strategy and really should not be attempted otherwise. The turret only turns 30 degrees left and right, so getting flanked is far from impossible. If a super heavy tank is pushing you sideways, it can prove quite difficult to turn towards them if they have enough engine power. And trust me when I tell you, it really doesn't take as much as you think it would to have one of these things be completely helpless by getting pushed in the side.
I got 7 Mac 11s, about 8 38s, 9 9s, 10 Mac 10s, the shits never end. You can't touch my riches, even if you had MC Hammer and them 357 bitches. Biggie Smalls, the million. Thanks a lot.
You can also get shot up through the tracks into your underneath armor, which that's pretty much gonna pen no matter what hits it. Like even light tanks are probably gonna pen that, so just look out for that. Overall, I didn't think I was gonna enjoy this tank, but I kind of do. I feel like I'd enjoy it more if the design wasn't so World of Tanks, if that makes sense. Ridiculous frontal armor, autoloader with strong heat rounds and a ton of gun depression. Exceptional in some situations, pretty bad in others. Granted, that's a good thing in terms of overall balance and diversity, that you have tanks be good at some things and bad at other things. But there's a lot of tanks coming into the game that kind of fit that description. Like the Mk.2. Ridiculous side armor, horrible speed, horrible gun, is terrible V range. Like all it has is that small blocking capability. That being said, this one shines a lot because of the gun. If you're patient with it, it will reward you. Sometimes that takes longer than people are willing to stick to it, but if after you slaughter enough BZ-176s with this thing, it feels pretty good after a while. I actually think I picked this thing up right at when it first came out, which was close to when the BZ came out. I think I got to it when the BZs came out, so there was just BZ-176s everywhere. Every game, pretty much everywhere. And they got so used to just front penning everything and doing 500 something damage every time that they would just shoot and do like 80 damage to the front of this tank. And this tank can overmatch them on the roof because it has a 127mm gun. It can pen through a face hug. It can shoot heat through the front of their turret because it's hilarious. So overall, I think I might like the gun more than the rest of this tank, but the gun is really only as good as the platform it is placed on. Like if you took the Waffenträger E100 and you put it on a medium tank chassis, that gun is gonna do ridiculous things. So same story with this gun. It's on a hull where it can work, but I feel like if it was on a different, probably slightly faster hull, it would probably work a lot better. See like the Astron Rex, for example, anyways. Anyway, you know the drill at this point. Stream highlights showing you what the tank does, what it doesn't do. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Let me know what tank I should do next. We got like 7 of them left, 8 of them left, besides the premiums, which I'm probably not going to do just because they're never going to sell them again. So 325 heat pen is very nice though, in terms of like heavy tank. And you might think it's not as good as an AE Phase 1, but AE Phase 1 is pretty good case. Like we're gonna pick from the highest of the high when it comes to statistics. Comparing it to that is a pretty generous comparison. That being said though, this tank is very easy to lose hit points in, despite the good frontal armor. Tanks around tier 9, mediums and heavies, and especially tier 10s, usually get well over 300 pen when it comes to their gold rounds. And if they hit under the gun, bad news bears. Speaking of bad news bears, that guy. Great start. I don't fully understand this position here. Like, I've seen super conks go here and just get torched, so I don't really know. Like, I understand you want to move somewhere and do something on this flank, but this ain't it. Also, I have to turn around and fight that guy after the IS-8 is dead. T10, whatever. T10's not a tank I would consider taking to that position, or really anywhere, because it's a T10. Holy crap, gun. 490 alpha. Come on. 490 alpha. We can't keep rolling 439, 455, like. Oh, 492. Holy crap. Pen. Or not. I'm just aiming at this to make him self-conscious. I can't actually pen that. Yeah, Type 63. It's the same tank they've already made like 4 times. I'm not looking forward to it existing, and it's probably going to be in Christmas boxes. I've said it for years now. It was my Basante video I made when that thing came out. I was like, they're just going to start making tanks where you can't pen them and they can't pen you. So the whole game revolves around the one guy that has the most pen, or the team that decides to drive. Like the team that actually wants to play. It's their workaround solution. I'm not even spotted. It's their workaround, big air quotes, solution to games being so short. The only reason it's gonna make games take longer is because if you push, you die. That's how we get stuff like Mountain Pass. Yeah, 290 heat pen, and it comes about 90-something heat pen short of being able to pen the front of its own turret, so. I was gonna say, they're not pushing this flank solely because they don't know. That was nice, but again, 490 alpha. 490 alpha rolled pretty much low every time. Like the Chrysler is that way, the Defender was that way, the Passante was that way. To a degree, the 50 TP was that way as well. Like frontally, a 50 TP can only pen itself in the lower plate, or maybe Capolas. Oh, hey. I'm gonna guess this guy is gonna drive at the exact path to go behind that building, and I'm not gonna be able to shoot him at all. Oh, unless he... Yep. How is that not even tracking, though? Like, if you're gonna non-pen... How does it, at non-pens, hits only the tracks and then doesn't even break it? 130 mil gun, or sorry, 127 point whatever. Like, how do you not break tracks? I've just never understood how ISU gun or something can hit a light tank in the tracks, and then it's like, oh, but it's not damaged. Also, you can see their CC-1 being very helpful to his team. The tier 7, right? If I see people sniping in the tier 7, I get it. Because it's after two, like, tanks that blatantly meant for sniping. It's not meant for, you know. It is meant for brawling, but it's after two tanks that are built for sniping, so people just kind of resort to sniping in it because that's what the previous two did. Okay, fine. If they're sniping in the 8, okay, fair enough, I guess. Also, I hit a gun barrel. If they're sniping in the 8, fair enough, I guess, because they may have blueprinted through the tier 7 because yes, okay, fine. If they're sniping in this thing, they have no excuse anymore. If they're sniping in this tank, they have no excuse anymore. Yeah, RU server has fire tanks and assault artillery. I've seen clips of the assault artillery. It's ridiculous. Like, you can have one sitting back here shooting things like where that IS-3 is. Pretty ridiculous. I mean, they aren't wrong that things will have to move somewhere, but that's not really the issue. The issue people want to fix is them shooting without getting shot back. But that's also an issue for tank destroyers and mediums, and yeah, like, the only thing artillery really has unique besides shell arc is stun. And honestly, stun is dumb. Like, I've not seen anyone in the game who likes what stun is. This is the part of the stream where I mentioned how bad this tank is at side scraping, because it's really not good at it. Ah. Wait, his gun mantlet is green. Hold on. So there's no way he has gun depression there. Holy crap, we rolled over 500. It took 3 games. It took 3 games, guys, but we rolled over 500 with a 490 alpha gun. Oh boy. Big hype. Twizzle, 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 twizzle. Alright, anybody? Let me guess, I'm gonna have to go first, and you guys are all just gonna sit there and wait for me to do it. Instead of pushing as a unit. Alright. Alright, guys, W. Yes? No? We're really not gonna push this, are we? Yeah, 177,000. I read that post, I thought it was 17,400. And then read it again and was like, that's not 17,400. That is not 17,400. That's 777,000, which is slightly different from 17. All right. You're welcome, team. First things first, I have no idea how I didn't take like 1,000 something damage from that first peak. We're rolling over 500 all the time now. This T-34 is gonna mess this up for all of us. HE, and yeah, he hit the gun mallet. HE, Yag Proto. You ever watch people play positions and you're just thinking like, this could be going great right now. This could be going great right now, but you know, it's not, largely because, you know, people are just peeking really questionable things. Like this guy here. After they did it. Alrighty, this Hillary 1 back there is gonna mess this all up for me, but there we go. Like how dramatic it gets. Hello, hitboxes? Hello, hitboxes. What's going on here? Oh, I know what it is. Iron Arnie has like spaced armor flaps, and they're gone. Really, Centurion. 457 on that snapshot there, by the way. No, Torn, you have to stay there. Torn, stay there. Torn, stay. And that's why you stay, because he does this. Like I thought he just said he was going to. And this gun has really bad heat rounds, kinda. This gun's in the way. 1 inch away. That's why I said stay, because this guy here was gonna peek like this. Yeah, so that one disappeared into thin air. The reason is because a lot of these tanks have like side skirts and crap in the way, and those go away when their tank gets blown up. So that's how you end up having shells like that one, where it just disappears into thin air. Don't see why they don't give a free tier 8 to beta players. I mean, I can see why they don't. It's because they cost like $40 a piece, so that's fun. Okay, thank you for not rewarding the auto aimer gamers like this guy. Okay, he should have penned one of those two, but I'll take what I can get. I'm gonna reload, because the reload's only 20 seconds, and this is a good time to go for it. Oh, they don't realize, actually. Bro is actually gonna do this. Is completely alone. Rask's gonna have to try running for it, and there's so many gun barrels in the way that I can't actually go for it. Okay, we're firing a little more heat rounds than I wanted to this match, but we're getting it back anyway, so... That was maybe a bit excessive. Wait, so really, you can't even play this anymore because they added a bunch of crap in the way. That was a great idea. I assume just because it's this map, there's some absurdly skew. Yeah, okay, Mr. No Aiming. I just assume there's some really obscure angle I can get shot from, like over there or something, that completely nullifies any effectiveness this position could have. Alright, so this over-angled 705A is actually going to out-trade me because he's firing heat rounds. Like, this is... That's great, man. Hey, finally. This guy's still over-angled? Yep. Okay, right. The only good thing about this DeJunkie changes would have been that roof, and they didn't include the roof, so that's just great. Yeah. All right, this is getting annoying. Do you think it's XVM? Because I really think it's XVM. You're still, dude. You are still over-angled. Oh me. This level 271 guy in 705A. Also, this has gotta be XVM at this point. Like, you got this whole situation happening. There's no way I can be the only person, or I'm the only person they can hit in this situation. There's no way. Homie's still over-angled. Gotta be kidding me, dude. He still had a repair kit. Oh my god. Level 271 705A right there. Yeah, hey Artie. Really? Like, okay, fine. The gun though, why the gun? Hello? What? Alright, went under him. How on earth does a T-95 get unspotted there? How on earth is that even possible? Really slow shells here, not helping. Either is that guy in the 212 or whatever. Yeah, that very extremely high rating of 7 that I got going on here.